Greetings, fellow conquerors. This is darkfireslide, and welcome to what I think is just going to be a nice, fun, laid-back video compared to the content I normally push out, you know, my Let's Plays and guides. And today I'm going to be talking about just a story, you know, an EU4 story, because I think that one of the greatest things about EU4 is the ability to tell stories from just the crazy and wild things that can happen sometimes in this game. Notwithstanding, of course, the epic tales of restoring the Byzantine Empire, for example, or otherwise rising up as a one-province minor, or just the sometimes surprisingly challenging things that can happen when you're playing as a large nation, even. And so I want to talk about one of my earliest experiences with EU4, and just kind of, you know, when I was first learning the game, and how much, first of all, how much of a noob I used to be. I mean, some would argue I still am. But some would think otherwise. Anyway, so let's talk about my first experience. Now, I'm looking at this part of the map because this was probably my fourth game or so, and I decided to play a full campaign with a friend of mine who goes by the username Captain Birdseye. And Captain Birdseye, it was his first game ever playing the game, and he decided to play the Ottomans because it's a really easy nation to play, not really a lot of challenge. And I decided to play Crimea because I'd never played a horde before. In fact, I didn't even know that they were a horde. It just seemed like an interesting choice given its location and that it was, you know, was Sunni. And so we would be able to form a natural cooperative alliance and, you know, make things happen. And things were actually really difficult for me. I was unable to really get a lot of decent alliances around here because a lot of the hordes around here just rivaled me instead of each other. And oh, of course, my Facebook goes off. So anyway, there were a lot of really interesting things to learn with a horde, as you might imagine, especially back in the day, before they had the new horde mechanics that they added into the Cossacks. Not that I've tried those, because I don't have the Cossacks, but still, you know, no horde unity or anything to worry about, just, you know, having your heir killed if he's too low of age, or having your daughter killed when, of course, that was even a newer thing. That wasn't even around back when I played. I think this was when Art of War had just come out, was when I was doing this. But the really interesting thing about it is I decided to take administrative ideas for the first time to kind of combo with core creation cost reduction that hordes get by default. And it was really interesting because, you know, while the beginning was really troubled because you have to, as a horde, reform your government back then, because otherwise your units never advance in, like, tech, basically. Like, no matter how much tech you get, your troops will never get any better. So I had to, you know, reform the government, which is a really brutal process that requires you to take two full idea groups. There was a number of selections, and I think this mechanic is still in the game if you don't have the Cossacks on. But hordes used to take by default, they were part of the nomadic tech group, and they had a 75% tech cost increase. And what this meant was that it was just really difficult to get those two idea groups because you needed an admin of 10 to get that, you know, second idea group. And actually, I think it was at admin 7, now that I think about it. I could be wrong. I forget the exact text. But anyway, so it was difficult getting those two idea groups up, but once I finally did, you know, I was able to expand, and I spent more time worrying about my nation than I did about expanding because I really needed that admin tech so I could actually just become a normal nation, which is great because then you become, you know, you get these awesome ideas still, but you're, you know, a normal nation. Now, being a horde does have its perks. You know, when you're a horde, you can attack any neighboring nation with no casus belli and take land without claims, which is very nice. However, you know, the looming threat of losing, just by default to some of the neighboring nations, terrified me. So I really focused on just becoming a Muslim kingdom above anything else for the most part. But after that, I was with some help from my friend Captain Birdseye. He was able to expand into, you know, this typical Ottoman areas, while I focused on expanding into the Russian steppes, eventually taking over Muscovy, Novgorod, and for the most part, the majority of the world, I basically became Russia, if you can believe it, as Crimea. Which was really funny because the colors are somewhat similar. If I had any screenshots from the time, I would definitely have shown them. And this is where it got funny. So we decided, all right, I have 400,000 troops. Captain Birdseye's got his own crazy amount of troops, and we're gonna attack the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. They have no allies. This will be really easy, and we didn't know at the time how the tech progression worked. So for those of you who are maybe newer to EU4, or maybe those of you who don't think about it this way, the fire phase becomes much more important in the later game in combat. So by the late game, having artillery is not only nice, it's basically mandatory. And we didn't know this, so we were charging into battle with, I think it was like 10 artillery, versus the Commonwealth that had like, you know, something like 40 artillery in each of their stacks. And so we would go into these combats and we would just lose like we'd be killed off like 10-1, right? Like we'd lose 3,000 for every 300 we killed, and we got like multiple stack wipes. So finally we actually like beat their army, and we're just sitting there like man, how is Poland so strong? Like we were even on like the same tech as well. Of course, the other thing is, in the late game, Eastern Tech Group units are better than Muslim ones, if I recall, and Ottoman troops in the late game are also less than stellar, just by unit pips. And so we fought this like 10-year war against the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Our war exhaustions were all extremely high, but they just, you know, eventually we had to peace out for like 2 provinces or something like that. And it wouldn't be until many games later that I realized that in the late game, oh, you need artillery because the fire pips are so high. So anyway, it was just really funny at the time, just losing all those troops, getting massacred by the Polish-Lithuanian. Of course, Poland's ideas are ridiculous anyway. Just the 15% morale of armies, the better cavalry combat by 33%, better infantry combat, discipline. They just have insanely powerful ideas, and so that definitely didn't help either. But it was just, you know, kind of a slap in the face. We owned like the entire, you know, world east of Europe, it seemed, and still somehow we were just getting our, you know, teeth kicked in by an army that was, you know, 8 times smaller than ours. Which is just it was a really cool moment that it seemed like something that would happen historically. You know, we have all these horsemen and stuff charging in against artillery and guns and just getting massacred, and it was really cool. But what I want to know is, and this is what I love about my community, I want to know your stories. I want you guys to comment in the description, you know, just in the comments. I want you to tell your own crazy or funny or whatever, you know, what is your greatest triumph in EU4, or what was, you know, the dumbest thing you did that you know, looking back you're like, wow, that was really stupid. Just stuff like that. Let's share stories, because I think that's one of the greatest parts of EU4. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.